everybody. It's attorney Laura Sterling. Welcome to my first live show of the year. It's 2024. Can you believe it? And like I said before, let's enjoy it. Let's kind of bask in it a little bit because, like that, I'm going to be, oh, hey, everybody, it's January 2025. It's just going to fly by. So, welcome to my first live show of the new year of 2024. I hope your 2024 is going well. I hope that 2024 brings you wealth and happiness and health and love and everything that you hope for. At the beginning of every year, everybody always makes their, what do they call it? Resolutions. I never call them resolutions. I call them goals. Like, what are my goals for 2024? Because resolutions sound like, oh, hey, I'm going to go to the gym for like 2 days, 2.5 days, and then I'm not. So I like to use goals as an option rather than resolutions. But anyway, so here we are, January 2024. And as I said, I like to start out the new year with some planning. Always wanting to plan, and you're planning for the year coming up. And so I always like to talk about, I'm not an accountant in any way, shape, or form, so I can't talk to you about taxes or getting your taxes filed or what's the best way to save on your taxes for 2024. I have to use my calculator every time I got to add something. So I'm in no way, shape, or form an accountant. But I do like to talk about how in my profession, I have my clients plan for 2024, or even plan for beyond that, to make sure that things are taken care of and their life is in order and they can feel at peace. So as you're aware, if you've been watching my videos all month, that I'm talking about Medicaid planning this month on my live. So that's what we'll be talking about. Hello, Mariana. Nice to see you too. I'm so glad you've tuned in. I hope you get something out of today and it can help you in the future, even though it may not help you now, but it may in the future. So that's a good thing. Anyway, I got to tell you a little secret. I'm going to be traveling in the next couple days. I'm going to be going, I know y'all are jealous. I'm going to be going up to northern Minnesota in a couple days. And I know you're jealous because it's so sunny and warm and beachy like up there. Not right. It's going to be, actually, it is going to be pretty warm. It's going to be in the 30s. So I'll be sending pictures and posting them on Facebook so that you can see what exactly, what it's going to look like in February in Minnesota. So I'm looking forward to it though, because I get to go up and see my family and my extended family and some friends from high school. I know you probably think that I've been out of high school like 100 years, right? So how could I have friends still from high school? I do. So take a deep breath. Now, I hope you enjoy what you're going to be hearing. I want you to be able to kind of relax, take a load off, watch. Try not to be multitasking while you're listening, because there's going to be things that maybe you want to write down or maybe you want to reference. And so try to have a pad of paper or a pen, or you can just continually watch the video over and over again, because once we have the live, we do post the recording on Facebook and on YouTube. So you can subscribe to both, and then you can just see the video and over it again, or even pass it on to your friends or, your parents or somebody that may need it. I want you to just kind of relax. So right now, get your pad of paper out, your pen, get whatever, drink you want. I have my water here, maybe a snack. Maybe you haven't had time to have lunch yet. Now, I do want to make sure that I always say this, and I say this all the time at the beginning of my live shows. I am an attorney licensed in the state of Florida. So any laws that I talk about are going to be Florida specific. So if you are watching and you don't live in the state of Florida, please know that you'll need to consult with an attorney in your area, wherever you may live, to get your specific questions answered in regards to what your state does or what your state follows. So make sure that, what I'm giving you is kind of general or Florida law, but you need to find out how it works in your state. Or you can be like my father and say, well, they're kind of all the same, aren't they? No, they're not. They're not. Each state is different. So make sure that you consult with an attorney. But if you live in the state of Florida, I'm here for you. Please feel free to reach out, contact the office, whatever it may be, and I'd be more than happy to discuss this with you. Now, Medicaid planning is one of my fortes, one of my things that I enjoy talking about. And why? Well, most of you know that I was a social worker. Well, I shouldn't say I was. I am a social worker. I have a bachelor's degree in social work. I have a master's degree in social work. I got licensed as a clinical social worker here in the state of Florida, and I'm also an attorney here in Florida. So when I was a social worker, working as a social worker, I worked in nursing homes. So, I dealt with Medicaid on a daily basis. And now a lot of these programs I'm going to talk about came about after I left the nursing homes, after I entered law school, because I entered law school in 2002. And so a lot of these programs weren't around when I was, dealing with residents or dealing with family members and trying to get them qualified for Medicaid and all of that. These programs weren't around. They're actually fairly new. I mean, since I've been practicing law. So what do I want to say? I'm impressed with the Medicaid program that they've created these programs to allow people to qualify for Medicaid. Now, when I say Medicaid planning, what I mean is long-term care planning. Let's say, and I'm going to use Grandma Jones. I need to put Grandma Jones into a facility because Grandma Jones has fallen. She can't live by herself anymore. She needs 24-hour care. So I need to get her into a facility. So that requires some Medicaid planning. Now, what does that mean? Medicaid is different than Medicare. Let me repeat myself. Medicare and Medicaid are totally different. Medicare is what we all have. When we work, we're paying. You look on your paycheck, you see that little Medicare that's being taken out of your paycheck, hoping that when we get old enough, that Medicare will be there. That pays those short terms. You see the commercials all the time at the end of the year, right? Joe Namath, Jimmy Walker, all of them doing those commercials for the Medicare Advantage plan. So there's Medicare that pays for short term. I fracture. Well, Grandma Jones falls and fractures her hip. She needs therapy. She goes into the hospital. As long as she has that 3-day qualifying stay, she will be eligible to use her Medicare in a rehab facility, nursing home rehab facility. She can go in, she can get therapy, she can do all that to hopefully, heal that hip and get her to be able to be up and maybe not up and running, but up and going again. And so Medicare is a short term. It pays 20 days in a rehab center, 100%. But then day 21 through however many days you use out of that 100, there's a copay. And what the copay is now, I'm not really quite sure. When I was practicing, it was like $21. I'm sure it's much more than that now. But somebody's got to pay that copay. Usually it's a coinsurance. If you don't have a coinsurance, you could always apply for Medicaid. Medicaid pays either that coinsurance, and then when Medicare is gone, then you have long-term care Medicaid. Long-term care Medicaid pays for your stay in that nursing home or pays for Grandma Jones's stay in that nursing home long-term. Now, I've heard a lot recently about long-term care insurance, and I think that's fabulous. My parents have long-term care insurance. I don't know much about it now anymore. I need to find out more. I do have some contacts to get some information about long-term care insurance, but apparently that does pay depending on what kind of policy, and it may not pay forever, but in the event that you have no long-term care policy and your Medicare is finished, you're now on the Medicaid program. What is Medicaid? I tell people Medicaid is the federal welfare program, for lack of a better word. It pays for a lot of things, but the thing I'm talking about today is nursing home care, long-term care. So you have to qualify, under Medicare, as long as you've turned 65 and you've worked your units, easy peasy, right? I just got somebody, my husband, as a matter of fact, on Medicare. And we just went in, we applied, and I thought it was going to be this whole big thing. And, well, what are they going to need? Boop, 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 boop. It was like magic. He qualified because he was 65 and he worked the number of units or number of years to qualify for Medicaid, meaning he's paid in enough to qualify. Easy peasy. Medicaid, you have to qualify financially and asset-wise and physical. Going into the nursing home, you also have to require that medical care. I can't go into a nursing home because, well, some people might think I'm not functional, but I'm totally functional. I can do everything for myself. So medically, I don't qualify for nursing home care. But Grandma Jones maybe does. She needs total care, or she needs help. She can't do her activities of daily living, like going to the bathroom, feeding herself, dressing herself, all of that. So she qualifies medically, but she also has to qualify financially. So to qualify financially, her assets have to be less than $2,000. Now, here in the state of Florida, we really don't count the home unless it's over a certain price point, and I'll go over that in a little bit. But we generally don't count the home as a countable asset unless, like I said, it reaches over. But you can only have 2,000 in cash assets. 2,000 is nothing, right? I mean, it's really nothing, but that's all they allow you to have. And she has to qualify income wise, meaning her income for 2024, because it changes every year. It goes up ever so slightly, because if you have anybody that's on Social Security, you know, every year they give that cost of living increase. It's just a hair, but Medicaid has to go with that. So the income limit for 2024 is $2,829. That's for the state of Florida. $2,000 assets, and the 2829 in income is for the state of Florida. Now, even though Medicaid is a federal program, it allows the states to set their own limits. So it says, okay, the federal government is going to be providing you money, but you have to set the limit. You have to set the asset limit and the income limit. So if you live in a different state besides Florida, you may want to check in. It's an easy Google, Medicaid limits for California, Medicaid limits for Georgia, whatever, and you'll pop up there. It'll tell you, and make sure you look for 2024. Now, let's say Grandma Jones has $100,000. Well, she's quite a bit over that Medicaid limit, isn't she? Now, can Grandma Jones give you, what is that? I don't even know. Can she give you all that money minus $2,000 and say, well, Laura, you were going to get it anyway, so here you go? No. Medicaid, when you apply, let's say you apply January 1st, they're going to look back 5 years. It used to be, when I was in a nursing home, used to be 3 years. Now it's 5 years. They look back. Has there been any transfer of large assets? Now, Grandma Jones, of course, can send money for Christmas and birthdays and stuff. But Grandma Jones can't send out $10,000 here, $10,000, because Medicaid's going to look at that and say, what were these $10,000 giveaways? Now, everybody always wants to fuss about, well, but she's entitled under the IRS to give out a gift every year. That's totally different than applying for Medicaid. Yes, you can, under the IRS guidelines, gift a certain amount, but that's going to come into play when you're trying to apply for Medicaid. They're going to say, wait a minute, you can't do that. That's a large sum of money, and you're trying to qualify. So they look at it as an inappropriate transfer. Now, I've had 2 cases where one was, I think they both did not know. They didn't know, and they had to put the money back. I had one where a family sold mom's home, and then they split it, thinking, okay, well, we're getting our inheritance, and they split it. And then mom went into the nursing home the next year. And this is when the look back was only 3 years. And sure enough, Medicaid came back and said, "Boop, you sold the house a year ago. Where's that money?" Luckily, they all still had the money. So I told them, you have to put it back in. It's mom's money. It has to go to pay for her nursing home care. Recently, I had a woman that she sold the house. And, she put the money in her name and everything. And 3 months later, she applied for Medicaid. So what do you think Medicaid did? They have a 5-year look back. They went, what is this? You sold the property. Where is that money? Luckily, she still had the money. She hadn't spent it, so we're able to put it back. Now, I'm going to tell you how to protect that money in a moment. But you can't do big transfers. It's best to go, okay, sit down, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and say, okay, 5-year look back. What do we want to do? What does mom want to do? Maybe mom says, listen, I want the money to pay for my care. That's what it's there for. That's her right. That's her absolute right. Some people say, no, I want to make sure that you all are taken care of. and that's their right as well. So I had a little lady the other day that she didn't have any family whatsoever. She had a little bank account, and she said, I want to make sure my neighbor's taken care of. I almost melted. Sweetest little lady. But you can't have large transfers. If you are you applying for Medicaid, for nursing home Medicaid, you can't have large transfers for date of applying, looking back 5 years, because otherwise Grandma Jones would become ineligible. And they calculate the ineligibility depending on how much money was transferred. So if you transfer 100,000 and Medicaid now has to calculate how long, what they're going to do is they're going to take the cost of the nursing home. Let's say the nursing home is 10,000 a month, and they're going to divide it by that 100,000, and the number that pops out, let's say it's 36, she's going to be disqualified for 36 months. She cannot get Medicaid until that 36 months runs through. So, and chances are, if Grandma Jones has transferred that money, she doesn't have the money to pay for nursing home care for 36 months. So that can be an issue. And that's why I always tell people, hey, we need to stop. We need to look what's going on here while they're planning. So let me tell you how one of the ways, and you heard my video earlier this month, about how we can protect Grandma Jones's money. It's called a personal services contract. Now, what is that? It's a contract, right? Just like I said, I loved contracts in law school, by the way. I just loved it. I loved it. I just loved the four corners of the contract. I just enjoyed it so much. But a personal services contract is a contract between me and my Grandma Jones. And what I'm saying is what me and Grandma Jones are entering into is that I, as Grandma Jones' caretaker, her granddaughter, I'm going to take care of certain things for her. So I'm going to be talking to the facility. I'm going to be involved in her medical care. I'm going to be taking her to haircuts or whatever she may need. I'm going to be doing her laundry. I'm going to be bringing her things. I'm going to be going shopping for her. I'm going to be paying her bills for her. All of that. I'm going to be doing all of that. And so the government says, okay, you're entitled to get paid for that. But is it an unlimited amount? Oh, I'm going to charge $200 an hour for it. That'll spend down Grandma's money. There's a certain amount that you're required to charge, that you can only charge. And it's once a week for each service. And then we calculate it. And how we calculate it is the hourly rate, how many hours a week, which is usually one, for how many weeks. But how many weeks do we put down? How do we know how many weeks to put down? Well, there's something called, what do we want to say? The Social Security guidelines of how long Grandma Jones' life expectancy is. So if Grandma Jones is 80, and let's say, according to Social Security, she's only got a life expectancy of 6.2 years, right? So 6.2 years, that would be divided in 12 is however many months that we would calculate it by. So that many weeks, we calculate it by her life expectancy. And we do it for each category. There's personal, there is accounting, there is medical, and there comes a number. We add all those numbers together, and at the bottom is a total number, right? It's a lump sum number. And let's say Grandma Jones, like I said, has 100,000, but that number is only 90,000. Okay, well, you can only take out 90,000. And with that remaining 10,000, what can we do? Well, first of all, she gets to keep 2,000. And there's other things we can do, like prepaid burials or a burial account or something like that. That's obviously legitimate expenses for Grandma. So, but let's say the amount is more than 100,000. Well, all you can get is 100,000. I hate to break it to you, unless Grandma somehow wins a lotto somewhere. I don't know, but that's all you can take. But understand that you're entering into this contract, so you need to keep track of what you're doing. You can't just be, woo, all right, I got this money. No, you better be keeping track of what you're doing. Okay, on January 6th, I took Grandma to Dr. So-and-so for her eyeglasses to be adjusted, or to the dentist, or whatever. You need to be keeping track of those things, though. If the IRS ever comes a knocking, you can show that. Or if Medicaid ever comes a knocking, you can show that. And also, please know before you do these, because as an attorney, we do the personal services contracts. But remember, like I told you, I'm not an accountant. So I can't give you accounting information because I don't do that. So, but understand that me as caregiver slash granddaughter taking that lump sum, there's going to be some, tax issues. So I need to speak to my accountant about what I can do about that because you're taking a lump sum. And so it's best to talk to an accountant to get that kind of information to make sure that you yourself are covered as well. So what I have, and I have so many questions when I do these personal services contract. One time I had a son, nicest man. And I was telling him about the personal services contract and we can do up the contract. And he said, okay, so when I take the money out of mom's account, do I open up another account in her name? I go, no, 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 no. That's the point, is getting it out of her name. It is now your money because you're going to be doing these services. And that man goes above and beyond for his mother. I mean, he does so much for his mother. And so, you have a right to get paid. And so it's a way to get that money and secure it and use it for mom's care. Maybe mom needs, or grandma needs, a wheelchair, or she needs some new dentures, and Medicaid only pays for one set of dentures. And I'm telling you, in a nursing home, dentures get lost all the time. When I worked there, my little people would wrap their dentures in tissue and put it on their little tray, or they'd shove it in a little Kleenex box and that stuff would end up in the trash. It was always happening. So Medicaid only pays for one set of dentures. That's it. So, for dentures, new clothing, maybe she needs a new wheelchair, maybe she wants a little TV for her room, that money can be there to provide that for her rather than spending it all down. So again, getting her to the 2000. And as I said, there's other things we can do. Like I said, they can do a prepaid burial. Go out and do that so that when Grandma Jones passes, you're not scrambling, trying to figure out what she want to do, meeting with, funeral homes, and you're distraught and grandma died and you're trying to think straight. Do it now. So grandma can be a part of it, and grandma can say, you know what? I like that casket, or I don't like that, or I want to be cremated, and this is what I want, and this is where I want to be buried, and all that. And you can work together to make sure that that's taken care of. And the money can be used. Some of the money can be used to pay that. Also, they allow a little side account, about $2,500 in the state of Florida, for burial expenses. There's always those unexpected expenses. So a nice little $2,500 cushion to say, these are for labeling it burial expenses, any burial expenses. Maybe you want to get extra flowers, or maybe you want to go out and get her that special dress to wear, or anything that you may want to kind of add to that service. Or maybe the car, you want some kind of special car to take her, whatever it may be. So I always tell people when they come to me, run it by me. Let me know what you want to do as far as the prepaid burial, making sure everything's in line, making sure that everything is taken care of. And that way we can spend some of the money down and then do the personal services contract so that we can make sure that everything is taken care of. So anyway, so then let me tell you what is countable assets for Medicaid that is counted in that $2,000 limit. Everything that's counted in that limit is any bank accounts whatsoever, brokerage accounts, checking accounts, savings accounts, CDs. I guess they still have CDs because I have a client that actually has a few CDs. I didn't know they still had them. Apparently they do. So certificate of deposits, anything that's a bank account. And if they have a joint bank account, I hate to break it to you, but a joint bank account, 100% of the money in that account is a countable asset towards the person applying for Medicaid. So if I had a joint account with Grandma Jones, Medicaid is going to count 100% of that money. It doesn't matter if, but my paycheck goes in there. It doesn't matter. Just don't mix them. Just don't mix them. So it's always better just to have her with her own account. And then, like I said, any joint accounts, any cash value in a life insurance policy, any second car, they can have one car, because you can drive them to their appointments in that car, but any second car that is younger than 7 years old. So if she had two cars and they were both 2023s, the one car, something's got to go. It's got to be sold and that money brought into the Grandma Jones's account. Any vacant land or anything like that is counted. Now, what is not counted? Homestead property. Remember, I told you the home is not counted as a countable asset in Florida. However, it used to be that it was never counted, didn't matter how much it was worth. Well, bring us, forward. Now the state of Florida has put a limit on it. Any property under $688,000 is not countable. Anything above is going to be countable. So, but if it's a married couple, it's unlimited. It doesn't, because the spouse that's in the community has to have a place to live, and we can't count that and say, well, you got to go find a cheaper place. Grandpa Jones, you can't live there anymore. No, the state of Florida. Then, of course, any car, regardless of value, any irrevocable burial plots or prepaid burials. Here's a funny one. Any retirement account. Now, the actual retirement account, let's say I have an IRA or I have a 401k. If I'm not withdrawing from it, it's a countable asset. So let's say I have $10,000 in a 401k. That's a countable asset. But if I'm taking monthly withdrawals, I've reached the age where I can now withdraw from that 401k, that 10,000 is no longer counted, but the money coming out of it is income. And we'll address that in a second, but the money coming out of it. So let's say you're taking $100 each month out of your 401k, the $100 is counted, the 10,000 is not. So people get kind of confused with that. Well, wait a minute, that's an asset. No, it's not. If you're withdrawing from it, it is not a countable asset. Then, of course, any personal property. Your television is not counted. So they get, oh, my television, I got it for $700, $800, which would be a pretty massive TV, right? Because they're pretty cheap. That is not counted. Any burial, like I said, the set aside of $2,500 is not counted. So remember, the countable assets are your bank accounts, anything like that. If you're your checking and doesn't count as if you're withdrawing, because you're supposed to be withdrawing. But any retirement accounts that you're withdrawing from are not countable, but the income is. Now, how I spoke about income. Remember, I said the income was like $2,800 here in the state of Florida. Well, what happens if I'm above that? I had a client that was well above that on her income. I was quite impressed. In fact, I told her, I go, good for you. I go, you worked hard for that. It was a pension she received from the state of Florida. It was fabulous. I was so proud of her. I said, this really helped you live your life, comfortably after you retired. But guess what? Now you're going into a nursing home. And guess what? That disqualifies you from Medicaid, because she was making almost $5,000 a month. I was like, holy cow, I should have done what you did. But that was a good amount of money. So what happens? Back in the day when I worked nursing homes, that would have been too bad, so sad. You got to pay private, da, 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 da. But now they have something called a qualified income trust. Now, here in Florida, we call it a qualified income trust, a Miller trust. They can call it many things in different states. I've heard it being called different things in different states, but here it's a qualified income trust or a Miller trust. What that is that I can put Grandma Jones's almost $5,000 income into this qualified income trust. And then I have to fund that qualified income trust each month with that money. Medicaid will then send me a letter and send the facility a letter saying, okay, Grandma Jones has to pay this much money per month to the nursing home out of her income. And it's generally the income limit minus $130 for incidentals, getting her hair done, whatever it may be. And so Medicaid will say, okay, you need to withdraw from this qualified income trust. We call it QIT for short. Take out that money and give it to the nursing home and fund that qualified. So it's like this. It's like a little circle. It's a circle. The money comes into the account, the money goes out. The money comes in, the money goes out. But what happens? I'm paying out that $2,800 to the nursing home each month, but grandma's getting paid almost $5,000. But that's a lot of money to be left behind. Well, in a qualified income trust, I can use that money for grandma's care. Grandma needs a new wheelchair. Grandma wants some more clothes. Grandma needs some dentures. She wants her hair done. Whatever, I can take money and use it for that as long as it's a qualified expense. I can't say, I really want to go to Paris for the Olympics. I think I want to take some money because I deserve it. And oh no, Medicaid's going to know that Grandma Jones did not go to Paris for the Olympics and enjoy seeing Simone Biles on the balance beam or whatever. They're going to know that that's going to be an issue. That's going to kick you out. So the qualified income trust is for Grandma Jones's expenses, her medical expenses or her needs. Now, what happens to that money? Let's say you never use the money that's in there. You never use it, but you got to keep it in that account. You got to keep it in there. It's got to stay funded, but you never use it. You're like, yeah, I'm just going to save it up. So when Grandma Jones dies, I can distribute it to all my cousins and my brothers and my sisters and all that kind of stuff. No. Unfortunately, that money, when Grandma Jones dies, that money goes to the state of Florida Medicaid program up to the amount that they paid for her care. Because what Medicaid is saying is, okay, we started this qualified income trust or this Miller trust to help you qualify for nursing home Medicaid. And while you were in there, we paid the remainder of what was due to the nursing home. So we're entitled to take an amount out of that qualified income trust and put it back into the Medicaid program, only up to the amount that they paid out. So if they only paid out a year, and let's say they paid out, I don't know, let's say 30,000, just for lack of a better word, but there was 40,000 in that account, Medicaid will take the 30,000 and leave the remainder, and the remainder would then be up, to be able to distribute. But anything in that qualified income trust, when Grandma passes, is not, free and clear, I can take. No, Medicaid will place a lien and Medicaid will be entitled to that money. So, hi, Lori. Let me see what your little question is. Hi, Attorney Sterling. I'd like to know, what are the implications of the 5-year look back period for Medicaid applicants in Florida? And how does it affect the planning process for those who wish to transfer assets? Well, like I stated, and very good question, Lori. I'm glad that you asked it. The 5-year look back, they're going to look back 5 years. If there have been assets, large amounts of assets, and again, like I say, not birthday presents, not Christmas presents, I'm trying to even think of when was the last time when my grandparents were alive, they used to give me money. I remember my grandmother on my dad's side, she used to give me like $5. My Medicaid's not going to squawk at that. But large transfers, 10,000, those kind of things that raise an eyebrow to a spend down. I can't define for you. I'm thinking 10, but Medicaid could think 5,000 is a lot or $1,000 is a lot. So it's really going to be up to Medicaid about these large transfers. If there's large transfers, Medicaid can disqualify Grandma Jones. They would disqualify her for the number of months that the large transfer was. So if it was $10,000 and nursing home care is $5,000, they'll disqualify for 2 months. And somebody's got to come up with that $10,000 to pay for Grandma Jones's care in the nursing home because that transfer. So they'll look back 5 years. They'll look at any big transfers of property, cars, whatever it may be, large transfers, and say, okay, what's going on? I need an explanation. And if they don't get a good explanation or anything, or the money doesn't come back into Grandma's name, they will now calculate what the disqualification time is. It's not going to disqualify Grandma Jones forever. It's going to disqualify based on the mathematical equation that they come out to. So very good question, Lori. I'm glad that you asked it. I think it is a good question. And if you have any more questions like that, Lori, I'd be happy to help you if you are applying for Medicaid for somebody, because it can be very daunting. Okay, so we talked about the personal services contract to be able to take that money and give it to, caretaker / granddaughter, caretaker, nurse, whatever, Laura. And that, again, to, get with an accountant, make sure that you're doing everything correctly, that what tax implications it's going to have on me, all of those kind of things. We talked about countable and not countable assets in regards to that. And we talked about the look back period, because that look back period is very, very important. Again, it used to be 3, it's 5. Who knows, down the road it may grow, but right now we're sitting at 5 for a while. Okay, then we were talking about QITs, qualified income trust, to get the income down. Like I said, back in the day, I always say back in the 1800s when I was working the nursing home, they didn't have a qualified income trust. If your income was too high, you're out of luck. And think of it, back then, the income limit was much lower because, the Social Security and cost of living was much lower. Now it's much more expensive. So qualified income trust, the money goes in there. You pay out a certain amount to the nursing home. The money stays in there. When Grandma Jones dies, Medicaid has a lien on the money that they paid out for nursing home care. Anything left over can go to beneficiaries. Now, let's say that Grandma Jones has money and there's nobody to take care of Grandma Jones. There's nobody to do a personal services contract with. There's nobody to do anything with. So then what do? Grandma's got 100,000. Either Grandma, pays the nursing home with it, which I always tell my people. I go to nursing homes a lot. I meet with patients there a lot. And I say, listen, you can either pay the nursing home, pay the nursing home the monthly fee. And when the money runs out and you apply for Medicaid. Or you can do something called a pooled trust. What is a pooled trust? A pooled trust is where Grandma Jones's assets, her cash goes into this pooled trust. And the pooled trust company holds that money for Grandma Jones. And if Grandma Jones needs something, then Grandma Jones can get something. Now, her income doesn't go in there. It's just her assets. If she's over the income limit, it goes into a qualified income trust. Or maybe Grandma Jones isn't over the income limit. So she's just paying the nursing home. Her Social Security check or whatever check she's getting is going straight to the nursing home. And she's just getting the $130. It was her assets that she was over and nobody was there to take care of them. So we've put them in this pooled trust and the pooled trust holds it. And let's say Grandma Jones needs dentures or she needs clothing or she needs a new TV or she wants a new wheelchair or whatever it may be, that money is there to be able to take care of her. So, okay. So let's say she gets a guardian, maybe a professional guardian. The professional guardian is wanting to get her a new wheelchair because her wheelchair, maybe she's grown out of it. Maybe it's too small for her. Maybe it's too big for her. We want to get something that fits her and she can maneuver around it. So the guardian could get the money from the pooled trust with some court orders and stuff, of course, when you're a professional guardian, but get money from that pooled trust, pay for the wheelchair, and Grandma Jones has a new wheelchair. Now that money is great and it's there. Let's say Grandma Jones has $80,000 in there because that was the only amount that we could spend down to after spending everything we could, prepaid burial account, all of that. And we're down to 80,000 instead of 100. So we put that money in there and then we can use it for things for Grandma. But let's say in her lifetime, we only spend 10,000 out of that account. So now we're sitting at 70,000. And Grandma passes away. Just like a qualified income trust, that pooled trust sits there. And so when she passes away, Medicaid comes along and puts a Medicaid lien on that account. And the pooled trust company is required to pay Medicaid whatever that lien is. So again, Medicaid is being paid back for paying for Grandma Jones's care in the nursing home. So again, Medicaid gets that money. What's ever left over, either the trust company keeps it or it's distributed to her beneficiaries. So I would, and as I always do when I'm meeting with clients, as I say, let's look for the best pooled trust, because let me tell you, there are a lot of pooled trust companies out there that you can go with. So I try to find one that does not keep the money, that at least gives something or gives all of it after all the bills are paid and Medicaid satisfied and everything, gives money to the beneficiaries. Because, I mean, isn't that what Grandma Jones would want? Grandma Jones, I always get from a lot of my clients is, I don't want my money to go to the state. Well, in this case, it would. So I always try to find the best pooled trust company. So no matter what state you're in, please try to, go, if you're with an elder law attorney or you're talking to other people, make sure that you do your homework. Hi, Edward. What should someone look for when choosing a pooled trust to join? Great question. Like I said, I would look to see where does the money go when Grandma Jones dies. So obviously the pooled trust is required. Medicaid places a lien to pay Medicaid and any other outstanding liens. And then when the money is left over, like I said, either the pooled trust keeps the money or they distribute it to the beneficiaries. So I try to find a pooled trust company that distributes it It's a lot of words. Distributes it to the beneficiaries. And not only when you call, and let's say they tell you that, there's going to be paperwork, there's going to be a contract. There's that contract word again. Make sure you read the contract in anything you do, in anything. When you have a contract in front of you, read it. Please, please read it, because somebody can tell you something. And I don't know if you watch Judge Judy. You always see it. Well, he seemed honest. He went to my church, but read the contract. Read the contract. So in a pool trust company, you'll get the contract, you get all that. Make sure you read it and make sure it says where the money goes. So very good question, Edward. I'm glad that you asked that question, because I get that a lot. You know what? There's so many out there. Who should I go with? So like I said, the best one is to see where that money goes. Now, so what we talked about is we talked about personal services contract that takes care of assets. We talked about the qualified income trust that takes care of income. We talked about a pool trust. Again, that takes care of assets. So there are ways. And like I said, back in the day when I worked nursing homes, and like I said, back in the 1800s, we didn't have all these options. These options weren't out there. If somebody had, was over assets, they had to spend down to the nursing home. If they were over income, I don't even remember really. That was so long ago. Like what they did, I just remember being, well, you're over income. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to pay. And there's no way that anybody can afford nursing home care. Maybe back then it was a little less expensive, but I know nowadays it's expensive. It is. It's a institutional care setting, and it provides 24-hour care with 24-hour nursing and medication and food and a room and all that kind of stuff. And so it can be very expensive. And it can eat through Grandma Jones's 100,000 in no time flat. And so I always like when I go to meet clients, either at the nursing home or I meet with their family members in my office, I try to go through everything. What do you have? What does grandma have? What do you want to do with it? And the client that I met with last week, I really sat down with her at the nursing home and said, what do you want to do? These are your options. What do you want to do? And she kept saying, I just want to make sure my neighbor's taken care of. I mean, you can't find people like that anymore. She was so sweet. And I said, well, but ma'am, what we're doing now is we're focusing on you. What do you want to do? Whatever you want to do, I'm more than happy to assist you with. And so we decided we would do the personal services contract and the QIT, the qualified income trust, to get her qualified for nursing home care. I also said, hey, do the burial, do whatever she wants, whatever she wants. If she wants a big elaborate funeral, go for it. She has the money for it. And then also put away a little money, so for those incidentals when she passes away. Because when somebody dies, I always tell my clients this: when somebody dies, there's a lot of stress and a lot of strain, and you're not thinking straight, and you got to think about what Grandma Jones would have wanted and what she told you she wanted, and it's a very difficult time. It's best to pre-plan and get that taken care of. And especially if Grandma Jones has the money and she can spend it and she can get what she wants and she can help you and she can say, these are the songs that I want. This is who I want invited. I'm not going to get into all that, but this is where I want to be buried. These are the, readings I want. All of that, it can all be spelled out, and that way it's taken care of, and family members don't have to be stressed about it. So, hi, Monica. Oh, what a beautiful picture, Monica. Can you explain what makes a pooled trust different from other trust options for managing assets and planning estates? Well, and that kind of a good question, Monica. That's kind of a different live, because right now a pooled trust just deals with, you can't create an irrevocable trust or a trust when somebody goes into the nursing home. That's going to be, you're transferring assets potentially. But a pooled trust is, like I said, something where you can put the money in. It's approved by Medicaid, and you can put that money in there. And the reason why it's approved by Medicaid, because Medicaid can come swoop in, do a lien, and take that money when somebody passes. The regular trust options are either revocable or irrevocable assets. And you can't really do that, is start transferring assets into this trust that Medicaid would have no ability to grab if Grandma Jones were to die within that 5-year window or need nursing home care within that 5-year window and then subsequently pass away, they can't grab at that. So Medicaid, you could do a trust, revocable, irrevocable trust prior to the 5 years and you're okay. But anything within that 5-year period, that's going to potentially disqualify Grandma Jones. The pool trust is approved because Medicaid can put a lien and grab that money and take it. So very good question, Monica. That's a good thought process. So, and I love your picture, by the way. Beautiful. Okay. So anyway, so as far as Medicaid, and then Medicaid covers everything in the nursing home. It does. The only thing that Grandma Jones would get from her income at the nursing home would be $130. That's all she gets each month. That comes out of her income, the 130. Now, here's the kicker. Remember, I told you back in the 1800s when I worked the nursing home, it was dealt the same thing, Medicaid, everything. They got a personal, we call it a personal needs allowance that they get each month, 130. Guess how much it was back when I was working nursing homes? $30. What is somebody going to do with $30? $30 is nothing. Thank goodness they raised it to $130. Even $130 is scraping it. But when you're in a nursing home and your meals are prepared for you, your snacks, your activities, I'm telling you, when I go to a nursing home, I'm playing bingo. So watch out, everybody, because I'm a big bingo player. But your activities, even little trips that you go on if you can, your medical care, your medication, all that. So the $130 is really, maybe you want to get your hair done, you want to get a haircut, maybe you want to buy some snacks out of the snack machine. I used to have a resident who was a diabetic who loved that snack machine. I'd be like, Mr. So-and-so, you can't eat out of the snack machine, but he'd do it. So that $130 lasts a little longer than it would for me and you living in the real world. So yeah, back in the day, it was $30. Even back then, I'd shake my head. I'd be like, really, $30? What are they going to buy with that? We used to have activities at the nursing home I worked at. It would be shopping. And somebody would come in and what they do is they would get thrift clothes and they would sell. They'd have a little shopping spree for the clients and they could buy clothes that are really kind of like a bargain basement garage sale. So they could buy clothes for $1, $2. It was nice. It was enjoyable to see that and have fun with it. So, but yeah, so they get that personal needs. Sometimes they save it. Sometimes they're like, well, I want $10 this month. So generally what they do is they set up what we call a resident trust account at the facility. And that's where their money, that 130 can go into that little trust account and the resident can come and get that money with bookkeeping anytime they want. Hey, Miss Bookkeeper, I want to get some snacks out of the machine. Can I have like $2 and quarters out of my account? So she's like a little banker. She'll give them the money, keeps track of everything, and they're good to go. Now, let's say you have a pooled trust with your assets in it, and then you have this resident trust account, and it's accumulating money because you're not really spending it and you don't want to spend it. It's getting close to that $2,000. Guess what? Now that resident trust account is going to kick you out of Medicaid. But no, don't worry about it. What usually happens is a nursing home will call caregiver/granddaughter Laura or your guardian or whoever and say, hey, listen, Grandma Jones is getting close to that 2,000. Can you come in? Maybe she needs some new clothing. Maybe she wants a new TV. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you want to take her out or something like that. That generally they'll call you and say, hey, listen, she needs to spend down a little bit. Let's do stuff. And Medicaid allows you to do that. I mean, as long as it's for her, maybe she wants to go to Publix and say, hey, do you want to go to Publix, get some groceries? And she's like hog wild with the Little Debbies and the chips and the all kinds of chocolates and all that, hoping she's not a diabetic or in any kind of controlled diet, but that she can spend that money. And it doesn't affect Medicaid as long as she stays under that $2,000. Now I get this question a lot. Well, what if Grandma Jones hits the 2,000? Is Medicaid going to automatically disqualify her? No. She has to be over that 2,000 for a certain amount of time. And when Medicaid stoops in to do its research, which it does every once in a while, it do a recertification, making sure Grandma Jones is still, her income is still within the limits, her assets are still within the limits. As long as she's been spent down and she's been spending on stuff for her, then we're good to go. But generally that facility will call and say, hey, Grandma Jones just needs a little extra something to kind of spend down a little bit on that 2,000. I always tell family members, If you're going to pull money out before you put it in that pooled trust, pull out maybe $1,000, maybe 1,500 to put into that resident trust account because it can accumulate fast if Grandma Jones is not using it. So you want to make sure that you stay below that 2,000. You don't want to be rushing every time to try to get something for Grandma Jones, and her room turns into a Disney memorabilia room. So, and Grandma, if she wants to buy some Disney, she certainly can buy some Disney animals or Disney whatever she wants, Disney t-shirts. So anyway, I hope I've answered all your questions in regard to Medicaid planning. Understand that Medicaid planning is an in-depth and very specific area of law and very specific to its rules. So as I stated at the beginning, Medicaid is a federal program, but each state is allowed to set their own criteria. So please, 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 the numbers that I quoted you are the numbers for the state of Florida. Please check the numbers in your own state. And know that it really, I get people that say, well, can't I do that personal services contract on my own? Do I really need an attorney? You need an attorney because it even for me to do it, I don't give my staff to do the personal services contract. I do it because it's very specific about what needs to be in it and how the calculations are done. And even I have a hard time sometimes. So I make sure I go triple, quadruple, 10 times over again to make sure I have the numbers correct because I don't want to mess it up and I don't want my client to suffer. So I make sure that I do it correctly. So if you do it on your own, you run the risk of it getting kicked out by Medicaid and it being disqualified. So make sure that you consult with an attorney. This is something that I really urge people, please, please, please get with an attorney. Also, the qualified income trust. It's required that we draft the document for the qualified income trust that you bring to the bank to open up the qualified income trust. Also, you would need to have power of attorney to open up that qualified income trust, either power of attorney or guardianship over Grandma Jones. I can't just be, hi, I'm Grandma Jones's granddaughter. Aren't I cute? No, I have to have some legal document that gives me that authority. And we've spoken about power of attorneys and we've spoken about guardianship. But again, if you have questions, please, I'm here. But you have to have some legal authority to be opening up that account. But we make the document, we have everything settled, and then you can bring that document to the bank and they'll open up that qualified income trust. The pool trust, that paperwork is done with the pool trust company. We don't generally get involved with that. We maybe will get the paperwork sent to you, but we direct you really to talk to the pool trust company directly so you can have your answers or your questions answered by an expert in that field. I know a lot about pool trust, but they're the experts. They deal with it every day. I don't deal with it every day, so I prefer that they answer your questions. Just like if you have accounting questions, I'm going to direct you to an accountant because I don't know what the IRS implications are of a not of a pool trust, but of a personal services contract. So I want you to feel comfortable and know that you're doing the right thing for yourself and for Grandma, and that you're satisfying Grandma Jones's wishes. So I'm so glad you spent this last 53 minutes with me, listening to me. I hope I didn't bore you too much because this information can kind of be dry. I understand that, but it is very important and very informative. And like I said, it wasn't around back when I was in the nursing home. So I'm glad that they came up with these programs. It's very beneficial and very helpful for our ever-growing aging population. And so I'm glad that you could spend time with me. I hope you got what I was saying. And please, if you have any questions whatsoever, you can always call me. Know that this will be reposted, the recording, on my Facebook page and on my live page. So if you suddenly went halfway through because the information was so dry, please, you feel free to rewatch it. Feel free to give us a call. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. I love talking about this kind of stuff. I know it's strange that I would because it probably seems really dry to you, but I really enjoy it. Also, please make sure that you tune in to my podcast, which is released the 15th of every month. I don't know how many I've had now, but I'm very excited about it. I try to hit on some legal issues that are in the news. And then also I have a blog that I want you to subscribe to as well and to read and to give me any feedback or any ideas about anything you want me to touch. I'm more than happy and more than open to listen to you because, again, These videos are not about me, they're about you and making sure that you get everything that you need to help you planning for your future or planning for the right now or making sure that you're covered in the event of anything that might happen. So again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad that you did. And I hope again to see you next month in February when we'll be talking about another topic. Have a great day and I'll see you in 2024.